Hi, it's Joy, and today I am going to be ranking the Arrowverse characters and relationships. It's just my opinions, but I thought it'd be really fun to share, and I would love it in the comments on Patreon and on YouTube, and this eventually gets on YouTube, to discuss with you what you think and how you feel. This is the second video I'm filming that is a Patreon video that will ultimately end up on YouTube as well, but it's going to be on Patreon first so we can all discuss it some more, and maybe there can be, a video where I discuss kind of what people have thought about it, if people on YouTube and Patreon have a lot of thoughts. But yeah, with the creation of my Patreon, it's something that is going to help me to keep delivering content, but at the same time I want to diversify my content. I love doing reaction videos. This will always be a reaction channel, but to do the occasional video that's just more about my opinions and kind of just me sharing my passion for you and more of me, because I don't know, I feel like very anxious doing things like this, but I'm going to do it. So before I get into all my rankings, just a quick little change. I just finished filming and I talked for an hour, so I'm splitting this into two parts so that people do not have to listen to me for an hour. If you're interested in any of it, you could do them both, you could do them at separate times, and they will be coming on both Patreon and YouTube very close together. I will keep them on the same day because it's just one big bit of content, but once I get going about my favourite characters, I do not stop. So yeah, I'm really sorry about how long I talk. And one last thing is that I have stopped watching Legends of Tomorrow, so that will not be included. I'm not including any of those characters in my rankings just because I'm not watching it anymore, and so they would all be at the bottom regardless. And there's too many, like, this was hard enough as it is with Arrow, Supergirl, Flash and Batwoman, so yes. Okay, so my first set of rankings that I have up so I can see them are my favourite characters in the Arrowverse, and I have narrowed this down to 10. Now for me, the top 5 and then the bottom 5 are a little like, there's my sort of favourite 5 and then my next favourite 5, and probably the top 5 are they stay the same. The bottom 5 over the course of the different seasons and shows, characters will go in and out and in and out, and it's kind of, again, please remember these are my opinions and I really do want to hear what your opinions are. I love discussing these shows, but you might guess some of these from how I've reacted and you might not. So at number 10 in terms of my favourite characters, and so this is the bottom of my ranking, but still one of my favourites, is Nia Null. Now, Supergirl Nia is a relatively new character, and I'm still hoping they're going to flesh her out. Well, they fleshed her out a bit, but I can't wait to see more of her and kind of get to know her. But I just enjoy her character so much. I think she's a very important character for what she stands for. I think it's always important to see transgender characters played by transgender actors, and that the fact that the show's actually tackled that as a plotline is important to me, and I think they've done it well. I mean, again, I'm not someone with the most authority to talk on that, but I've read a lot of what the actress has said about it and I love her. And I really enjoy Nia the way, I think sometimes her superhero lines are a little cheesy, but that's just the character. But I think Dreamer is, I love watching her kind of growing confidence as a superhero, and I'm going to enjoy watching that more. I love that she's yet someone else that can be on Kara's team, but kind of a woman on Kara's team, which is always good. And I don't know, I'm just really enjoying exploring Nia both as Nia and as Dreamer and getting to know more about her backstory. And I think she's such a strong character, but she's not afraid to be vulnerable, and she's got a lot of the same kind of moral idealisms as, like, she believes in the same stuff Kara does, and I just really, really have enjoyed Nia. When I was doing this list and I was thinking about all the characters, Nia was one that almost surprised me by being number 10 on my list, but then I was like, well, how could she not be? And again, I'd probably say that these 5, Nia could have been 9, 8, 7, they're kind of a bit fluctuating. So then at number 9 for me is Thea Queen. I love Thea. I don't know, maybe she would have been higher if she'd been in Arrow more recently, but I think as a character she had such an evolution over the course of the show. She grew so much, and I liked her in season 1. I mean, she was a little bit of that kind of stereotypical troubled younger sister in season 1, but she grew over the course of it, and her finding out about Oliver, all the stuff with her parentage and her trying to deal with who she was and who she wanted to be with the knowledge of who her brother was and what her father had done and what her real father had done, her mother, like, she had a lot going on as a character, but overall she stayed so true and loyal to Oliver, and she was such a good sister to him and such a good friend, and I loved when she was Speedy. And I think with her, I absolutely loved seeing where she ended up. Now normally I'm someone that if a show ends with a character kind of going off and doing some kind of life risky type mission-y type thing, I'm a bit like, oh, but couldn't you have a nice happy life? But I truly think that what Thea wants to create with her sort of basically her league of a force for good. She wants to train people who maybe need that bit of help, that guidance, someone in their life, to not be a league of assassins, but to be a league of heroes. And I think that is something that's so important, and I actually really want to watch the spin-off show of that so much. I mean, she's also going to be getting married, so I guess she'll have, you know, him there. But I would love to see more of Thea. But as a character, you know, she's someone that in season 1 I probably would have been like, I doubt she'll make it, especially once the Arrowverse diversifies and becomes, you know, 7,000 million shows. I doubt I'm going to be including Thea, but I really love her, and I was lucky enough to get to meet Willa Holland, and you know, she's so funny and so kind and just, yeah, brilliant. At number 8 we have Iris West Allen. And Iris is a character that I love a lot. I think in season 1 for me, I wasn't entirely sure of her, but I think it was because she didn't seem to fully fit in with the rest of the show, with her not knowing about Barry and everything. Like, kind of like, I didn't dislike her by any means, but I would never replace her into my favourites. As the show has gone on, her character's been fleshed out more, and we've got to see so much more of her, and she's got such unfailing kindness and self-belief, and she is so brave. And you know, she has no powers, but she's so brave. And you know, she's not even a character that has felt the need to go out and learn like karate or sword. Like, she doesn't have any great abilities, but she has her courage, her passion, and her belief, and that is what makes her such a strong character. And you know, I think it has been such a joy to watch her evolve and grow over the course of the show, and just to see what an excellent partner she makes. And you know, when she's been sort of the leader of Team Flash, it hasn't felt forced or like they're trying to push her there. It's really felt like something that she just slots into that role with how much she cares and how smart she is and how strategic she can be. And so I really enjoyed watching Iris. At 7 for me, we have a relatively new character to the Arrowverse, Mary Hamilton. I am so surprised in general by Batwoman, by how quickly I have loved it. And Mary is one of those characters that has just shot into my heart. Like, I love her. She is, again, she's so smart. She is so brave. She's only just starting on her journey of superhero assistanting, I suppose. So we don't have like as much context drawn with her, but you know, like I said with Thea and with Iris and well, they're the only people I've talked about that have been in since season 1. They were characters that probably wouldn't have necessarily made it into my top 10 in season 1, but Mary definitely does. I love her scenes. She steals most of them. Her relationship with Kate and how she acted when she found out Kate was Batwoman. There are certain other characters in the Arrowverse who could learn a thing or two from her about that, but I have just loved watching her character grow, and it's killed me watching her suffer. But she's getting, I mean, she's always had such a strong sense of what's right and wrong, and you know, running her clinic to try and help those who are less fortunate. And just, that has been something that endeared me to her instantly, that made her instantly more than the kind of just social media Instagram influencer that they were trying to portray her as. Obviously that was a factor of her, that is a part of her. I assume she's still doing it, even though she lost a lot of press coverage after her mother and everything. But I think she's someone that has such a good heart and that just shines through. And I love that she shows that you can enjoy, you know, you can enjoy being kind of slightly more frivolous person while at the same time having a heart of gold and running her clinic and being there for Batwoman and everything. And I think she's such a good influence on Kate, and I'm just really excited to see more of Mary overall. Number 6 on my list is Roy Harper. I love Colton Haynes, so he may be a slight bit of a bias here, but I was very excited when he was going to be coming onto Arrow, and Roy started off and I was like, oh, this bag stealing, good for nothing. But by the end of season 1, I was in love with him. I mean, the way he was willing to risk himself, risk his life to try and save people at the end of season 1, the way that, you know, we saw that when he was kidnapped in episode 18, 19, he didn't believe he deserved to live or whatever, but Oliver was able to give him that kind of that chance, and that gave him a purpose, and just, he is a hero, truly. And, you know, he shows that you can have not so great beginnings, both in terms of circumstance and the choices you make, because, you know, not everyone has to make choices to go into the criminal path, but ultimately he made so many good choices. He was funny, he went through hell a lot of the time, you know, so many experiences that he went through were awful, but he made such close bonds with the team, and he was such a good Arsenal. And I think, you know, I'm so glad he ended the show on a high note, that, you know, despite all that he'd suffered and all that he'd gone through, he ends the show happy, and that is what I needed for Roy. But I think as well, like, he's just so willing to self-sacrifice, and that is heartbreaking. You know, he gave up his life to help Oliver, and I just love him so much. He just became such a part of Team Arrow so quickly, and you know, I think the show would have been better for me had he stayed in it the whole time. But I fully respect Colton, and I know Colton, you know, he's very open about his life and his anxiety and everything, and I fully support him and love him. But I think for me, I would have loved Arrow even more if Roy had stuck around, but every moment Roy was in it was brilliant. I loved him as a character. Like I said, as his character grew, he grew into a character I truly loved. Seeing Roy again in season 8 was everything to me. So now we have my top 5. These are the characters that are my actual top 5 favourites. These are the ones that are pretty much steadfast. They used to be top 4, I suppose. I'm gonna say the same. So again, with these, they probably are a little bit interchanging again. Like these 5 probably interchange. You know, person at 5 could have been at 4 or 3. They do go up and down a bit. The top 2 do stay the same, actually. So at number 5 we have Barry Allen. Now he is at number 5 just because at the moment I am feeling slightly less passionate about The Flash than I am about the other shows. It's not catching my love, but Barry is my constant with The Flash. Barry is the one that I still care so much about. And like, you know, I've been saying, he is a force for good. They all are, they're all heroes. But he is such a good person. His hope, his passion, his love, you know, he is the paragon of love because he has just got so much unfailing belief in people and being good. And he is someone that has never been tempted into the darkness, and even before he had his powers, he wanted to be a CSI tech to try and help people, I presume to try and sort of stop people being falsely convicted in the same way that his father had been. You know, he has yet another tragic past, because all these characters do, but he is such a strong, wonderful character, and he's such a brilliant main character for the show. He really keeps the show going for me. And I know it's one of the most, it's like the most popular show on the CW, but for me right now it's not. But Barry is, and I love him. And just a lot of that is Grant Gustin's acting, obviously, as with all these people, they all have good actors. But I love Barry Allen. And if you don't love Barry Allen, you're wrong. But it's just, I love, you know, for Barry, he's a character that almost started off with such idealism that if anything we've seen him struggle a bit more in terms of with staying positive and true, but he always finds his way back to himself, and he's a character that I have just loved watching as always. He makes the Flash for me. He and Iris make the Flash for me, and I just can't wait to hopefully watch him continue to flourish and grow without the threat of crisis looming over him, and he deserves a happy ending. He better get one. So then we have at number 4, Kate Kane. Now Batwoman has only just started. We have had what, like 17 episodes of it, and Batwoman as a show has soared into my heart. I love it. It is my favourite one of the Arrowverse shows that is currently airing. Like this season, across the board, it's my favourite one, and Kate is a huge part of that. She is such a brilliant main character. She has the perfect blend of sort of that vulnerable side, but she's so strong, and you know, she has such skills as Batwoman, but again, it doesn't feel like it's sort of like with other characters, her motivations behind training up and behind becoming an excellent fighter and capable strategist and all that sort of stuff make perfect sense because she wants to try and right injustices after what happened to her sister. And I think that she is someone that tries so hard to do the right thing, and we have seen her fail, we've seen her stumble, and I think that makes her an even more lovable character to me because, you know, as much as you can love characters like Barry, and I do, I dearly do, don't get me wrong, 99, like, he's someone that in some ways is almost hard to relate to in the sense that he's so good. So you're like, how could I ever live up to that? Now I know he has made mistakes too, and I do love Barry, but I think Kate just feels really human to me. In the same way that they all do, but Kate just really has this sense to me that, like, she feels real. And even though she puts on a Batwoman suit and goes out fighting, I just really, really enjoy her. And, you know, it's been such a pleasure to me to fall in love because I was nervous about Batwoman. I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's so many Arrowverse shows. Is this one going to be any good? Haven't we been there, done that? And then I was like, I love it. And I think she has got such courage. You know, she was the paragon of courage, but her bravery and her courage helped her to keep giving her sister as every chance she could until the point where she was courageous enough to think, I know I need to do what's right for the greater good. I need to stop her because she could kill lots of people. I think I'm so intrigued by where Kate's going to go. I mean, she's in season 1, and when you think about what all these other heroes have been through over the course of their shows, she has got a long way to go, and I'm stressed for her, but I'm so excited to see her develop. And I think one of my favourite things about her is that she is so sure of who she is. You know, she had her doubts. She, like, with what happened with Cartwright, obviously she worried about who she was and she lost that sense of who she was, but in terms of her identity, her sexuality, her toughness, her ability to, you know, be there in a fight, she does not doubt herself. She knows who she is, and she knows that she is capable, and I really, really enjoy that part of her, and I cannot wait to see her flourish over the course of many, many seasons. At number 3, we have the original Oliver Queen himself. I love Oliver Queen, and I know over the course of the show some people hate Oliver, some people didn't like him in certain seasons. I loved him all the way through. I think he, no matter what, post-Ireland Oliver was always trying to do the right thing, and yeah, he made a lot of mistakes. There were times when I wanted to scream at him and shake him and be like, Oliver, what are you doing? But overall, he genuinely wanted to make the world a better place, and he genuinely didn't think he was a person that deserved saving or help so much of the way. And like, I think something Diggle said to Barry was that Oliver only realised that there was more to life than his mission, or that he deserved more to his life than his mission, when it was too late, and that kills me. I'm not gonna cry about Oliver Queen, but he is a character. When he introduced us to the Arrowverse, what more could you want? Like, Arrow was such a good show. I can still remember when it started. I still remember seeing the first adverts and being like, that's intriguing, and then watching it and being like, oh my goodness, and just I fell in love, and then the whole Arrowverse was born, and it's everything to me. But Oliver is such a good, like, he was such a good character to me. He really, Stephen Amell is a brilliant actor who I was lucky enough to meet, but he really balanced the sort of, I loved the early seasons where you really saw him putting on his public Oliver Playboy persona, and then you saw him being like his sort of more controlled, I'm Oliver Queen, when he's being just Oliver and he's with Diggle or as privately, and then his kind of Arrow persona. And I think that has been the show that we've really seen the most evolution of these main superheroes, the main vigilantes arc. You know, Oliver went from being okay with killing people to being like, I can never ever do anything violent, like I do not want to kill people ever, to kind of a sort of more like, obviously he still doesn't want to kill people, but kind of his evolution over the course of the whole show was everything to me. And like, he obviously had 8 seasons, which is more than any of the others have had, but Oliver has been through so much, and he did eventually realise family was important. But I think for him, he was such a strong character, and he was the first one to unmask himself out of all of them. He, you know, became a public face of superheroes, and I just really, I mean, to me, Oliver Queen is such a good person, and I've always rooted for him. Even when I've seen him making mistakes, I've rooted for him. And in that terrible season, my least favourite season of Arrow, when Renee and Dinah and Curtis were like, Oliver's the worst and we hate him, I don't know. That's a permanent black mark on their names for me, because they overreacted for how they acted then. Like, yeah, be mad at him. You don't need to like act like that. So I am Team Oliver all the way, all across the show. And I think I'm gonna miss, like, I genuinely, the thought of, in a way, the thought of Arrow not being on anymore is surreal. It's heartbreaking. But the thought of Oliver Queen being gone is the bit that's really getting me. Like, Oliver's been such a constant for so many years, and he's such a strong character. And he was, I mean, if Oliver hadn't been as wonderful as he was, we might not have the Arrowverse. So I truly love Oliver, and like, he's a flawed individual. He has mistakes. None of these characters are perfect, but I love him. So then we have my number 2. And this is controversial for a lot of people, I'm sure, but if you know my channel, this is no surprise. Montel of Daxam, if he needs a surname, because everyone else got surnames. I love him, and there is something about me, you may not know, you may know, people in my real life know, with the characters that I love. If I like a character, I don't even have to feel strongly about them, I just have to like them. Or, you know, have a neutral opinion of them, and I see them getting hated on unfairly by fans or whatever, my heart goes out to them, and I love them even more. This has happened in so many shows. There's been a character that I've liked, and I've been like, yeah, you know, Monel's great, he's cool, I like him a lot. And, you know, no matter, he would have ended up very high on this list regardless of this. But then you see a barrage of hate going their way for completely undeserved reasons. Was he perfect at the beginning? No. Was that making him the devil? No. It makes me love them even more, and Monel is a prime example of this. You know, I became very attached to wanting to protect him when I saw the hate he was getting. But he was a character I loved from the beginning. Like, you know, he might have been 4 or 5 or 6 at the beginning, like, kind of, when he'd been on the show for like mid-season 2, he definitely would have been on my top list, but he wouldn't have been number 2. The hate he got did help with that. But his character, I think, I enjoyed him so much just because he was part of season 2, which was a slightly improved Supergirl. It became a bit more of an ensemble show, which then a lot of the haters were like, Monel is in it, and he's got all the screen time, and Kara doesn't get screen time. And it was like, well, no, when it was on the other channel, it was very much Kara's show. And it still is Kara's show. She's still going to have the most screen time, her relationship's still going to get more screen time than everybody else's. But it became, they introduced, you know, Alex got more plot lines, and John, and James, and everyone got more fleshed out. And Alina was introduced, like, there were a lot more characters introduced. That's why Kara got less screen time than she used to have. But Monel as a character, he brought someone that had a similar life experience to Kara in terms of their planets were destroyed at the same time. He brought someone with a lot of history to him as a character. And, you know, I remember us all being like, oh my god, I think he might be the prince, like, guessing that and everything. And, you know, he was a very frustrating character at first, but you understood that from what Kara said about his culture. If you think about how Kara viewed the Daxams and the Daxamite royalty, and then how Monel acted at the beginning, he actually did pretty well. Like, you know, I mean, I am so proud of the man he became over the course of season 2, and then I'm kind of sad that a lot of his evolution, or the evolution that we got to see the start of, and a decent amount of, he finished in the future. But Montel's a character that he lost everything twice. He lost Daxam, and, you know, I don't know that, in my opinion, he was truly ever happy on Daxam. I think he was happy in the sense, but I don't think he was even aware that he wasn't happy. I mean, we've seen his parents were obviously very controlling and abusive, or at the very least very controlling. I doubt he had much say over his life, or over the decisions of Daxam, from the way his mother was especially. Then, you know, he comes to Earth and he finds that that's all gone, and his feelings of guilt and everything over that, and like when he tells the story of how the prince bravely stayed behind for his people and he insisted his guard went instead, I don't think that that was just him trying. I mean, definitely part of why he lied about who he was because Kara was so anti-Daxam, and if like people, if you don't know this group of people and you're trying to make a good impression, you want them to help you and to be safe, and you don't know that you can trust them, given especially the atmosphere he would have been with his parents, someone being like, oh, the Daxams are the worst, Daxamites are the worst, I hate the Daxam royalty. If you go, I'm the prince, you're worried that he might have been worried they'd lock him up again or that they'd kick him out, or, you know, like, I could see 100% why he didn't feel comfortable at the beginning saying he was the prince. But the story he told about how the prince, you know, was brave and he insisted he had to stay with his people and he sent his guard instead, I think that truly was what he wished he'd done. That he wished he'd been braver, he'd wished he'd been a hero, he wished he stayed with his people like he should have done. And I think the Montel that we grew to have would have done that without hesitation. So I think that's one of the reasons I love Montel, is because he's a very reflective person. You know, he's able to, he was very quickly, upon arriving on Earth and seeing a different way of life, he was able to be reflective and to look back at who he was and how he had acted and try to change it. And oh my god, did he make mistakes? Yes, but he was trying. And, you know, he mentioned to Kara at various times that the prince was selfish or whatever. Like he was just, and he almost told Kara when they were locked up in Cadmus, he almost told her who he was. But, you know, I think Montel was someone that, what really endeared him to me was how quickly he tried. And like sometimes he tried too much. And like, don't get me wrong, he messed up a lot. Like times where he, you know, was trying to protect Kara and it got the cops hurt, etc. Like he'd made a lot of mistakes, but if anything that made him more relatable to me, because he didn't get it right. He wasn't perfect first try, but his heart was in the right place. And, you know, there were times where, yeah, he had to learn to be a different person, but he grew up as the Prince of Daxam under the most controlling parents. And the way his mother was, he didn't have other influences. He didn't see, oh, there are other ways of life that I could be. Oh, maybe what we do isn't always right. He didn't have that as, because yeah, they'd go visiting, but are you really going to be in front of the Daxam king and queen, be like, hey, by the way, the way you rule your planet sucks? Of course you're not. So he didn't see any other way to be, got to Earth, acted pretty well for someone that hadn't, you know, properly been part of a society like this, or, you know, someone with morals like Kara, and he saw everything. And I think for him, it clicked into place that that's what he wanted. That's what was missing, that this way of that being more heroic, that putting other people first, not always putting yourself first, not being selfish, etc. I think for him, it really was a case of, this is what I wished I'd been looking for in my life. Like this is what it should have been, that he was aware of things that weren't right, but he wasn't quite aware why they weren't right because he hadn't seen other things. And watching his evolution has been, I mean, I probably might even talk about Montel the most, but I think it's because he's got so much hate. Montel's evolution has been so beautiful to watch. And then, you know, so over the course of season 2, he made a lot of mistakes, but he kept trying. His heart was in the right place, and he was such a good support system for Kara, and that is actually something that I truly think she's been lacking in these later seasons. It's lost some of its spark in the sense that when she had Montel, when they were together, she had someone that was always there for her, that, you know, she was his main concern. Now, yes, she has Alex, but Alex has Kelly. Alex has, you know, when she was working with the DA or wanting to be a mother, and Alex has a lot of other things going on with, because they were a couple. And he was someone that not only knew who she was, you know, if she's starting something with William, if that's going to go anywhere, he's at some point going to have to go through the whole, oh, by the way, I'm super, we've got all that to get through. But not only did he know who she was, but he had a similar backstory to her in the terms of losing their planet, so they could just relate when it came to that. And I just, like she said, she didn't have to worry about breaking his nose when kissing him with William. She's going to have to be careful about that. I mean, I think they were just so well suited, and I hate that a really loud minority of the fandom was able to write him out of the show. But anyway, season 2, at the end of season 2, he comes up with a plan to sacrifice, again, he lost his entire world, all these people, these connections he's made, to go in a pod to nowhere. He may well have died. I mean, when that was happening, I was freaking out because I was like, is he just going to float away and die? Like, where is that pod even going to go? He sacrificed everything again. And he, you know, he became such a good man. And then we find out when he goes to the future. So he lost everything. What does he do? he helps to create the legion of superheroes. You know, he helps to create something that is in Kara's name, or Kara's image, Kara's everything she believed in, that she taught Monel to believe in. He creates an entire legion of superheroes, and then he agrees to marry someone as part of a peace treaty. He does an arranged marriage for the benefit, like the ultimate sacrifice of marrying someone he doesn't love, because in the modern day especially, that is not something we do, like in our societies at least, to get peace, to help an alliance. Like, the level of sacrifice that takes. Season 2 Monel, early season 2 Monel, would have been like, yeah, but I don't want to marry her, I don't love her, I want to find Kara again, or maybe I'll find love again like Kara. But obviously I think they grew to a place where they can where like a lot of arranged marriages do become loving in the end, you know. And some people are very lucky and they might find love as strong as any love they would have had otherwise. But I think he did love, I got her name, his wife, but he wasn't madly in love with her. And so season 3 for me was very frustrating when they brought him back married. But the most frustrating thing of all for me was how it ended. It was very clearly a season that had the arc of Cara and Monel getting back together, and then the showrunners decided to not do that. But Monel's character growth is everything to me, and seeing who he was in season 3, it was everything we had seen he could be in season 2, and we got to see it. And we got to see him in his super suit, and then in the most recent 100th episode we got to see Monel, and when Cara was struggling, she wanted his advice, and that's everything to me, because he has such, it shows how far he's come, that he's someone that not, she doesn't just think, oh, I love him, he's a bit of an idiot, isn't he? She thought, no, I want to know what he wants to say. And what the advice he gave her was brilliant. You know, he pointed out that, yeah, Lena has suffered a lot. Lena is right to be upset, or like, Lena being upset with you is a thing, but it's not all on you, and like, you deserve the same compassion you show to others. That was everything to me. So Monel, I love him. So then you've probably already guessed, my favourite character in the Arrowverse is Kara Danvers, Kara Zor-El. She is very closely tied with Monel, but Kara is Supergirl. Kara is, you know, she makes Supergirl as a show. Everything she believes in, it's just almost sometimes too idealistic, but that speaks to me. I don't see why we shouldn't aim for a world in which everyone is safe and fair and equal, and if we don't quite get to there, we only get to there. That's a hell of a lot better where we are now. Kara is everything to me as a character, as a superhero. Ever since Supergirl came onto the screens, I've loved her. And I think everything she stands for is so important to me. And Kara, you know, she's the paragon of hope. That is something Kara always wants to see the best in people. She always wants to believe there is a way out. That she always wants to believe that people will make the right choices. And that is something that speaks to me in how I try to see the world. And she helps me keep trying to see the world like that. She is such an important hero for me. And we have seen an evolution of Kara. We've seen her struggling with, can she be Kara Zor-El and Kara Danvers? How does Supergirl work? Telling people. And I think part of the reason seasons 4 and 5 haven't been my favourite of Supergirl are because season 4 was very heavily everyone hating on people, like hating on aliens, hating on Supergirl, and Kara losing some of that hope. Kara losing, or constantly having that battered, like the target of the season was all that made Kara who Kara was. And I struggled, like, it wasn't necessarily bad, but it was something that I didn't particularly enjoy watching because it just was painful. And this season, seeing Lena be abusive, like as a friend, she has strayed into the abusive territory with how she has acted. You know, like I've always said, if she just wants to be angry at her, fine, but the way some of the things she's said and done, how she tried to blame Kara for all of this stuff, it's really hurt me to see Kara taking that in and Kara internalising that. And that's why I loved the 100th episode, because Kara finally figured out what she was worth, and that, you know, yeah, she may have made a mistake, maybe, but there was no perfect way to do it. And, you know, another reason I love Kara is because without any prompting from Lena, without any idea that Lena knew, at the beginning of this season, she told her, and she apologised, and she said, I'm a terrible person, I'm a terrible friend. You know, when she told Lena, it was everything to me. And so I am just proud of Kara for who she is and who she's become. And, you know, she lost everything, and then, you know, at least when she was in that pod, terrified out for her life, she would have been thinking, well, you know, I've just got to get to Earth and protect my baby cousin. I've got to get to Earth and protect my baby cousin. I've got to protect my baby cousin. Then you arrive and your baby cousin's like, hey, yeah, I'm not only a man, but I'm also a Superman. You would be like, oh, so she kind of, that feeling lost, and she found her new family and her human side. And when we first meet her, she's been suppressing part of herself, but now she gets to be both. And that is something I really enjoy. And like I said, just everything Kara stands for is so important to me. And I love her a lot. And I think she's someone that I just want to keep seeing on my screens. Like, she just lights up the screen. Melissa is brilliant. She just brings so much love and hope to the role, and Kara is just everything she stands for. Like, you see her encouraging people in the world and in our world. Like, she's such a character that gives me strength as a person, and I just cannot say enough about how much I love Kara.